Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by Tim Picciott of the Liberty Advisor, and we got a lot to talk about today because as we go forward in this brave new world that we witness around us as tyranny skyrockets, as economies get pummeled, we will see what is most convenient for the global economy, a cashless system, a centralized one, if you will, something that we've been warning about for many years. And we're going to go into that and more today. But first, make sure to hit that like button, check those links below, join us on Flote.app as well as BitChute and Library. And of course, find ways that you can fund us below as we are viewer funded, completely demonetized. Join our new newsletter at www.imband.com as well. And anyway, let's get to this. As this article out of Zero Hedge says, Bank of England governor signals central bank digital currency is coming. And as the article goes into, as confirmed by several economic outlets, including Bloomberg, Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey took part in a talk with students this past Monday for Speakers for Schools. When the subject of digital currency came up, Bailey said, and I quote, "We are looking at the question of should we create a Bank of England digital currency. We'll go on looking at it as it does have huge implications on the nature of payments and society. I think in a few years' time, we will be heading towards some sort of digital currency. The digital currency issue will be a very big issue. I hope it is, because that means COVID will be behind us." I mean, of course, they have to add that little piece in as well. And I do want to point out that this is nothing new. Of course, we've been talking about this for a long time. As this article says, the world is moving towards a cashless economy. As this Bloomberg article says, coronavirus hastens the rise of the cashless economy. Cashless transactions have spiked as company policies and consumer habits shift. But protections for people without banking credit access haven't kept up. We have other articles like this one out of Business Times, central banks considering cashless banking in the future. Or this one, COVID-19 concerns prompt new interest in cashless payments. Of course, CNN was famous for their headline talking about how no one should use cash because of COVID, which doesn't make any virology or scientific sense at all. And as this actual document from the Bank of Canada's own website says, a uniform currency in a cashless economy, and this is from March 2020. And now this has been going on for a long time. If your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's a bank's. If your money's always going through the banks via digital transactions and legal tender laws, it's never your money, it's always a bank's, and you are essentially enslaved to the banking system. And when you consider this as well, bail-in regimes, what have you, I mean, if they want to take the money out of your bank account and you have very little to no depositor insurance and everything's digital, how are you going to be able to save your money? And how are you going to be able to get around taxes?
Like, you don't even have to have any money in the bank anymore as reserves. I mean, Jerome Powell came out on CNBC and even said that. I had one of our listeners who actually sent me the clip of that, and we've shown it a few times before. I mean, there's laws that were changed. I forgot what year. It's like 2012, where literally if a bank goes bankrupt, that your assets that you have at the bank are now the bank's, that they can use that to satisfy their liabilities. I mean, that's on the record right now. In 2014, you had Stanley Fischer, who was the vice chairman of the Federal Reserve, who had a speech in Stockholm, Sweden, where he actually, of course, Stockholm, where he had a speech where it said that we need to issue bail-inable long-term bonds, so then that way what was going to happen is that you take a haircut on the value of your bond. And so really, we saw the stock market crashing, but really the stock market crashing was the bigger thing was the bond market that was crashing, and that's why the Fed had to come in, step in, buy up not only investment grade bonds but also junk bonds, because the entire system was about to implode. And then a lot of these bonds, like half of their top 10 lists were foreign companies or companies that have just huge cash piles. So if you're Toyota or BMW, I think both of them made the top 10 list. How are Americans benefiting from letting Toyota by having the Federal Reserve buy their bonds? I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. But all this was a plan. I mean, you go back to I almost said Daddy Warbucks, but from the play Annie, Daddy Warbucks, that was based off of Paul Warburg. Paul Warburg said we shall have one world government. It's only a matter of through consent or conquest, and things are getting bad because of the government, and now people are going to beg for an answer, and then so they're going to beg for their own enslavement. And from day one, I sort of outsmarted myself and didn't get into Bitcoin nearly as early as I should have, because I knew about it around $1, because I thought it could be a one world mark of the beast system, which it can be. And so digital cryptocurrencies can be used as a tool for enslavement. They can also be used as a tool for freedom. It's going to go that way no matter what. Josh and I know, not to put words in his mouth, well, we're trying to go push people people towards the freedom aspect of it. But once you get it on a centrally controlled,
not freedom. No, you're right.
Yeah,
I want freedom.
Yeah, once you get it on a centrally controlled, let me not put too many words in your mouth. But yeah, it even goes back to like, what is it, the Economist magazine cover from 20 years ago that I forgot what year it had. I think it had 2019, so maybe we're like only 1 year delayed on this. But it's if they can eventually get it to a system where they can control the currency and credit, then all of a sudden now they can have negative interest rates. All of a sudden now they can say, oh, well, Josh and I are thought criminals and you were talking to us. And so now we're cutting you off. And, oh, you didn't get the vaccine. So now you're not getting $2,000 a month of UBI. And so now you're only going to get $1,500 a month. And eventually it's going to be used to socially engineer everything. And it's so obvious. I mean, it's at this point, it probably doesn't sound crazy to any of you out there, but it's just, that's where things are going.
Well, Tim, this is the issue here, because we obviously have seen them planning towards this for a long time. It's very beneficial for the financial system for people to not have any control over their money, for it to be completely centralized, for the banks to control everything that they own, and the ability for them to be able to trace you everywhere. I mean, that goes back to the Chinese kind of control system that we're seeing take place all over the world, which we'll get into more in a second. But what do you think of the timing of all this with COVID-19 lockdowns, second wave lockdowns, the unbelievable strain this is having on the vast majority of people on the planet right now? I mean, the economy, everyone keeps saying the dollar's doing great, it's getting stronger. Yeah, well, that'll run out eventually. But right now it looks great. But the fact of the matter is we are seeing the biggest global depression ever in history. I mean, I don't think you could really compare it to anything else. Once this is all over with, it's going to be in all the history books, if we even have history books. So what about the timing of all this with the cashless system?
Well, first, you never let a good crisis go to waste. And so you've got a checklist of things that the they, them, those bad globalist crowd want to do. And so now this is the perfect skeleton key to get pushed through all the stuff that normally they wouldn't be able to get pushed through. And also you get a lot of the Republicans and conservatives who are now laying down when Trump does certain things, because now, if you want to criticize what Trump's doing, now you're a libtard, even though, he then, not that it's directly him, but, encouraging the Federal Reserve to, grow their balance sheet by $3 trillion. And they're absolutely going for broke, and that's why it's more important than ever that that this conversation doesn't just reach you and a couple people that that even if you're not directly spreading this video to other people, which we'd appreciate if you would do that, but if you go and have other conversations like this, because it's all this is going to be used to eventually get the universal basic income that's tied to a digital currency that is then used to socially engineer, socially control people because I mean taxes are not needed. I mean, taxes are only they're needed to control the people and to socially engineer society. But other than that, I mean, the taxes. I mean, if we can print money out of thin air anyways, like why should there even be a tax system to begin with? It's there to control people, and literally the amount of money that was just printed the past few months was more money than we even collect in taxes. And I'm saying we, but that the U.S. government takes in taxes to begin with. So this whole system's a sham. It's all coming down. At this point, what makes this depression a little bit different now is, and this is something I was talking about, is that you could have a depression-like scenario with the stock market rising, because if you just introduce all this fake, this money it doesn't just sit in a vacuum. So it has to go somewhere. And so that's why cash got stronger, because people took money out of risk assets, put it into safer stuff, but long term, putting all your money in cash is going to go broke safely, in my opinion. And this is, I haven't made a lot of videos the past few months. I've, a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. I've put out so many, I kind of got burned out. But right now is a warning to, if you've got, if you're 65 years old, have your money in the stock market, you just got a mulligan. You just got a second chance to do some planning, because it's my opinion that they're going to pull the rug before the election on Trump. And, that's the number one indicator if you're going to be reelected again, is actually the stock market. And so I think Trump knows this. That's why he's been buying into this. And from day one, my first podcast was talking about how it was so important that Donald Trump doesn't just try to get, keep the business as usual with the stock market, doesn't keep business as usual with trying to get all this fake phony money into the economy, because then he's going to build up this artificial economy, which they can then pull the rug out from him underneath. And then now we're going to be in a way worse spot. And so right now we're in a pretty worse spot where the Fed's balance sheet has doubled. We can't even walk outside without mask on, or now that we're some sort of like leper or something walking around without a mask. And
dude, they're actually stopping people. We're here in Las Vegas, of course, and they're actually stopping people walking down the street by themselves in the desert in 120-degree heat for not wearing a mask and citing them.
That guy has a crack pipe on the side of the road, but he has a mask on, so that's okay. But these guys don't have masks on. Get him.
As the police beat people up for not wearing a mask while not wearing a mask. I mean, it's insane. Driving alone without a mask on, that's criminal. Turn off your air conditioning, kill grandma by killing off the air conditioning in 120 degrees heat because you might spread COVID. I mean, they are testing people at the craziest level
top of a mountain at like 7,000 feet. Actually, that was sort of like the base of the mountain was around 7,000 feet. And then we were waiting at a restaurant outside, and there's no spot for shade, and they were making everyone wear masks on, even outdoors. And at the base, it was around 7,000 feet. And it's, you know, especially if you're like older or you're not in great shape. I mean, wearing a mask when it's, you know, probably 85 degrees direct sunlight, you know, it's not, you know, the easiest thing in the world.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We're standing in this parking lot. First of all, at the top, close to the top of the mountain, there's a guy who isn't wearing his mask, making his kid go up the mountain, maybe 7 years old, wearing a mask. And he said, "Daddy, I can't breathe." And the guy's like, "Shut up and get to the top. Stop being a, you know what?" And it's just crazy. And I get to the parking lot at the bottom, and in the parking lot, this woman says, "Put on a mask. You have to. It's the law." First of all, it isn't. It's a mandate. Second of all, I said, "No, I have a medical condition." And she says, "No, you don't." And I said, wait. Did you just say that's, by the way, I'm not the type of guy who would do it, but that's a $92,000 fine through the American Disabilities Act right there. But nonetheless, I don't use the government against people. But
it's all selective enforcement of their own rules. So I mean, if you know, the best way to get rid of a law is to enforce it. But the problem is it's selective enforcement where, you know, imagine if I had any other health condition and for them to say that, like, you would think that that's blasphemous, that they would, you know, question. There's no way they could, you know, question you on that. Yeah. But now we're using their own system against them. And, you know, now it doesn't work, or you're
right. And I do want to kind of get back to what we were talking about before, because we do go off track, but the whole world's completely tyrannical right now, so it's really hard not to talk about all these insane things that are happening at the same time. And by the way, of course, Tim is a financial planner, so you can check the links below, thelibertyadvisor.com, if you want to work with him or become a client. He has had incredible success with his clients. But I want to quickly mention the issue of China, because obviously China, first of all, is the one that ends up, well, first of all, years ago, the IMF talked about putting their headquarters in Beijing. There's been a massive shift towards China over the years as far as the monetary system goes. Now you have this issue where COVID allegedly starts in China, probably through the Wuhan Institute of Virology, bioweapon, whatever, gets out, and it hits China first, and the U.S. says everything's fine, don't worry, and then it hits the U.S., and everything collapses in the U.S. while everything starts getting better in China, and then repeat after me, the same thing over and over again. And what you end up with is China getting an upper hand here.
Right
the World
after
Health
the Chinese trade deal, too. I mean, right after the trade deal, too.
And the U.S. works with China. They're not like in competition. That's all false. It's a psyop. They work together, and we can go back all the way to the 70s with, I almost said Hitler, Kissinger meeting with Mao Zedong, and also the creation of the Trilateral Commission by Zbigniew Brzezinski under Jimmy Carter with China, creating an artificial monopoly in favor of China. And Zbigniew Brzezinski is the one that basically mapped all this stuff out with the Trilateral Commission years ago, saying that he wanted to create a global technocratic superstate. Now, what do we see? Social credit. What are we seeing come up here in the United States now? Social credit with ID 2020. If you don't get the vaccine, it's not like they're going to force it in your arm. You just won't be able to go to eat anywhere. You can't travel anywhere, etc. They're already setting that up. And with a cashless society, you can get stuck within the banking system with facial recognition, social credit all together. That is where they want us, and that is absolute enslavement of the population.
And the International Monetary Fund, if you actually dig into it, it actually acts more like a bank, and what they do, and the World Bank actually acts more like a fund. And then the Federal Reserve isn't federal and doesn't reserve anything. But the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, their whole deal is they'll lend you money, and then that money that they lend you, they know that you can never pay back. So then they give you another loan to cover that, and then they eventually say, okay, well, you know, you can't pay that back either. So hey, if you're Zambia or something, you know, hey, I don't know if they have ports over there in Zambia. I just picked a random country. I should probably should pick a better example, but hey,
Port of Mauritania.
Yeah, we're gonna go take the Port of Mauritania. Oh, you've got a great, you know, oil field or gold mine, and we're going to take natural resources from money we never had. And they use, for their money, they use to go transfer between different unit of accounts. They use a special drawing right, which is what they also abbreviate as the SDR, which is a fiat currency made up of other fiat currencies, which was then pretty much the basis for what Facebook was going to use. But I think Libra's got a little bit too big for their britches, and there's a certain things that they can't touch that's above Facebook. Hey, you're supposed supposed to be a CIA group to data mine everybody. You guys are supposed to take over all the money too. So yeah.
Well, and obviously, China is doing the same thing as the IMF in places like Africa and taking over Africa by loaning them more money than they can pay back, and then they take over their assets, or they basically take over their power companies or water companies, etc., making them
economic hitman. Yeah,
well, that really works out to what we're seeing in Ethiopia, and of course, one of the heads of the Ethiopian Communist Party is, well, the Tedros, the head of the World Health Organization. So it all comes full circle, doesn't it, folks? Well, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we protect ourselves against this, and there's still time to protect ourselves against it. But it's ridiculous that people are waiting so long. But better late than never. At this point, this is just my opinion, but obviously, I think people should be getting into the decentralized cashless system, because even the Bank of Canada says that the reason they're creating this cashless system is to be able to track finances, so like taxes, etc., as well as be able to overtake the uprising of Bitcoin and Monero and these other things, which they say is criminal money, which is hilarious because 99.99% of all crime done with money is done with fiat currency. So if we're going by that, I guess we got to ban fiat currency.
The Pentagon recently had a war game where they were trying to say, what if this next generation, I forgot the generation underneath us. I even hate saying millennials, but was it just Z or no Z? I think it's Z. X is above us. So the one Z is like, what if there's a Generation Z Bitcoin digital takeover, and then war game? And this is like the Pentagon was putting out, like they're trying to war game these situations. And Colin Cantrell, we posted this video on here, and we talked more about that in that video, which hopefully we'll be getting another interview with him again soon, because Josh, we're coming back to, we're all around the country. So originally last interview we were in New Hampshire, today we're in Nevada, next time we'll be in Phoenix, and then we'll be in northern Arizona. So coming, we're basically traveling more than ever now that the government's telling us not to travel.
I'm homeless. They demonetized me, so I'm homeless. I'm literally homeless. But it's interesting.
Sure, he doesn't have to live with me. So.
Yeah. So well, yeah, true. Anyway, I appreciate you going into all this, and of course, there's a link below for people who want to get involved with Tim and become a client. And of course, we won't be on YouTube for much longer. I'm calling for people to leave YouTube by November 5th. Remember the 5th of November, my friends. It'll be very easy to be able to remember because, well, it's the 5th of November. So let your favorite creators know on their comments that you want to see them join WAM in the walkaway by November 5th to places like flote.app, flote.app, as well as BitChute, Minds, and Library. Let's get off of the mainstream platforms. Even if you want to join us on Hive and Steemit, whatever, just get off of YouTube. YouTube is basically, they gripped us all in, they made people dependent, and now they're taking it all away, and now it's all mainstream. They're trying to control the narrative, and any moment now I could be taken down. Press for Truth's channel was terminated just about a week ago. We need your help to stay alive right now, so make sure to check those links below. Join our newsletter at imband.com. Fund us if you can. $1 or more a month in pledges makes a big difference, and of course, we have a Teespring store if you want to get one of our shirts, including one that says I got a suntan during quarantine, which I highly recommend everyone get if they want to get yelled at. Anyway, I appreciate you going into this with us, Tim, and we'll be back at you with much more. Also, I almost forgot gold and silver, in my opinion. I know people were going to get mad at me if
and I can help them out in their retirement accounts with that too. And the thing is, I'm not even like proactively going out, and like I'm not going to be harassing people because I have enough stuff coming my way, and that I'm really at this point, we got almost all the gains last year in the market, almost none of the losses this year on record, telling people what was going down. Not to say that that's a guarantee of what's going to happen going forward, but in a long enough time horizon, if you don't have any gold, silver, or Bitcoin in your retirement accounts, I think it's something that you can look forward to. I'm one of the pioneers of being able to get Bitcoin where you hold on to the private keys within inside of your retirement accounts. But the thing is, do your own research. You should know what you're getting yourself into, not trying to convince people who aren't trying to be convinced. At this point, we're in this triage situation where, we don't have time to help everybody. We don't have time to save everybody. And, it's still, try to get saved while you still can. It helps fund what we're doing, taking all the money that I get, putting it back into the business to then not just so I can get a big business, but because, it takes money to be able to fund activism, to be able to go around, do places, fund different people. It takes money to do that. And so if we have a win-win-win where, okay, you're investing with us, and basically, I don't know of anyone who performed better than us the past 2 years. And so, because of that, I'm not hurting for a ton of business right now, whereas every other advisor is, underneath their desk right now, scared because they at one point were down 30, 40%. Well, we were only down 3.5%. So, and we're getting all the gains last year. But anyways, yeah, gold, silver, Bitcoin, I highly recommend, you have a conversation, at least look into that for your own retirements, because they're going to, on a long enough time horizon, they're going to, the Fed's balance sheet probably by this time next year will probably be 10 trillion. That's probably actually a lowball estimate. And it took, the entire country up until we started the year at 3.6. Now we're at, like 7.4, I think, somewhere in that vicinity. Probably going to be at 10 this time next year. And it's just a hockey stick upwards of printing money. We're at the end game right now. The end game. Quit thinking about it. Start doing stuff. Now is the time to take action on every single front. It's just crazy. And I wish we weren't having to report on the central bank takeover, because this is a prison planet that's being created for our kids and grandkids. And the only time to get out of, if you've got $50 million right now, what's your $50 million going to do for you 10 years from now when your kids and grandkids are enslaved? We're at the final end stages of this, and I'm not trying to fearmonger anybody. This is this is just what is going on right now.
If you can't see it in front of your face at this point, I don't know what we can possibly do for people, because I'm honestly thinking it's past the time of education and more into the time of fixing and taking action and being free, living by example, and finding ways to, or ensuring your own future right now, because honestly, it looks pretty dark for most people, and with the calls for possibly as many as 28 million people being evicted in the United States by the end of the year. And obviously, that's not going to mean everyone is going to actually be living on the street. But the fact of the matter is,
people missed their rent in June or July.
32% of people did not pay on their mortgage in July. So that the deferring that we're witnessing right now is absolutely massive. We'll do another video on that as well.
$600 a month is, I think, running out. The extra $600 is running out, I think, at the end of this month too.
Yeah, and the moratorium on rent is going to, honestly, this is going to end in a collision course for the history books. So get ready now, my friends. We will be talking with you very soon. We'll get more videos up for you guys shortly.
Nasdaq's at an all-time high, so
we're just going to keep adding to I'll see you guys soon. Make sure to hit that like button, share on social media. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on flote.app, flote.app, as well as BitChute and Library and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites, because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.imband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.